Was this my chance to do the angel thing? I wasn't feeling very well when I got out of bed. I sat down in front of the television and began watching the morning news. After finishing about 3 cups of coffee, I walked into the bedroom, slipped into my cut-off jeans and a polo shirt. Those were my absolute favorite jeans. Yet my wife had threatened to throw them away many times because the legs had string hanging down almost to my knees. I put on my baseball cap, walked out to my truck, and I headed down to the local bookstore. When I walked in, I looked at the clerk and I said, "I'm looking for the Chicken Soup for the Caregiver Soul and Chicken Soup for the Friend Soul. Can you tell me if they've been released yet?" I asked. "Well, let's see. August and September are the release dates. That's what it shows here on the computer," said the clerk. I thanked him and I walked over to see if I could find any hardcover editions of the Chicken Soup books that already had stories in. As I approached the Chicken Soup section, there stood several young women reading from one of the books. "That has to be the saddest story I've ever read," said the younger of the 2 girls. I looked at the front of the book and noticed that it was Chicken Soup for the Horse Lover's Soul, one that I had a story in. I picked up another book and I began looking through the pages. As the 2 young women walked in front of me, I could see that the story they were discussing was one that I had written, titled Cowboy Heart. I wanted to tell them that I had written the story, but for some strange reason I just couldn't. Oddly, I felt completely embarrassed. I placed my book back onto the shelf and I walked over to the Joe Muggs coffee counter and ordered a cup of coffee. After ordering a cup of decaf, I made my way out onto the terrace for a cigarette. Several minutes later, the 2 girls appeared on the terrace with an older woman, which I presume was her grandmother. They sat down at one of the tables and the young girl began to read my story to the 2 women. When she finished reading, the 3 of them just sat there in silence for almost a minute. "I wish I could write stories like that," said the young girl as she wiped her eyes with a napkin. "Katie, just put your mind to it, honey, and you can do anything that you want," the older woman told her. "But you got to be real smart to write like that," said the girl as she closed the book. I smiled when I heard those words, knowing all along that I was not a very smart person. I mean, after all, I'd only finished the 6th grade before being sent off to the reform school by the orphanage. I walked back into the bookstore to get another cup of coffee. While waiting at the counter, the 3 women walked back inside and asked the clerk for directions to the bathroom. Just before they entered, the young girl laid her book down on one of the tables. After they went in the bathroom, I walked over, opened the book, took out my pen, and I wrote, "Cowboy Heart" by Roger Dean Kaiser. "Katie, you can do anything that you want if you put your mind to it." Then I signed it, "Your friend, Roger." When they came out of the bathroom, the young girl picked up the book and they proceeded to the checkout counter. I sat watching as the mother paid for the book and as they walked out the store. I walked outside and watched them get in their car, and as they drove away, I'm not sure how the young girl will react when she discovers what I wrote inside the front cover. Will she look upon this as one of those strange miracles, or had this been my chance to do the angel thing?